page 42. By now, Ramona was tired, cross, and hungry. "I don't see anything funny," she said sullenly. Mrs. Quimby managed to stop laughing. "What on earth got into you?" she asked. Ramona considered. Was this a question grown-ups asked just to be asking a question, or did her mother expect an answer? "Nothing," was a safe reply. She would never tell her family how she happened to be wearing a crown of burrs. Never, not even if they threw her into a dungeon. "Beezus, bring me the scissors," said Mrs. Quimby. Ramona clapped her hands over the burrs. "No!" she shrieked and stamped her foot. "I won't let you cut off my hair. I won't, I won't, I won't." Beezus handed her mother the scissors and gave her sister some advice. "Stop yelling. If you go to bed with burrs in your hair, you'll really get messed up." Ramona had to face the wisdom of Beezus's words. She stopped yelling to consider the problem once more. "All right," she said, as if she were granting a favor, "but I want Daddy to do it." Her father would work with care, while her mother, always in a hurry, since she was working full-time, would go snip, 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 and be done with it. Besides, supper would be prepared faster and would taste better if her mother did the cooking. "I am honored," said Mr. Quimby, "deeply honored." Mrs. Quimby did not seem sorry to hand over the scissors. "Why don't you go someplace else to work while Beezus and I get supper on the table?" Mr. Quimby led Ramona into the living room, where he turned on the television set. "This may take time," he explained, as he went to work. "We might as well watch the news." Ramona was still anxious. "Don't cut any more than you have to, Daddy," she begged, praying the margarine boy would not appear on the screen. "I don't want everyone at school to make fun of me." The newscaster was talking about strikes and a lot of things Ramona did not understand. "The merest smidgen," promised her father. Snip, snip, snip. He laid a hair and snarled burr in an ashtray. Snip, snip, snip. He laid another burr beside the first. "Does it look awful?" asked Ramona. "As my grandmother would say, it will never be noticed from a trotting horse." Ramona let out a long, shuddery sigh, the closest thing to crying without really crying. Snip, snip, snip. Ramona touched the side of her head. She still had hair there, more hair than she expected. She felt a little better. The newscaster disappeared from the television screen, and there was that boy again, singing, "Forget your pots, forget your pans. It's not too late to change your plans." Ramona thought longingly of the days before her father lost his job, when they could forget their pots and pans and change their plans. She watched the boy open his mouth wide and sink his teeth into that fat hamburger with lettuce, tomato, and cheese hanging out of the bun. She swallowed and said, "I bet that boy has a lot of fun with his $1,000,000. She felt so sad. The Quimbys really needed $1,000,000. Even $1 would help. Snip, snip, snip. "Oh, I don't know," said Mr. Quimby. "Money is handy, but it isn't everything. I wish I could earn $1 million like that boy, said Ramona. This was the closest she would ever come to telling how she happened to set a crown of burrs on her head. You know something, said Mr. Quimby. I don't care how much that kid or any other kid earns. I wouldn't trade you for $1 million. Really, Daddy? That remark about any other kid? Ramona wondered if her father had guessed her reason for the crown, but she would never ask. Never. Really? Do you mean it? Really, Mr. Quimby continued, his careful snipping. I'll bet that boy's father wishes he had a little girl who finger painted and wiped her hands on the cat when she was little, and who once cut her own hair so she would be bald like her uncle, and who then grew up to be 7 years old and crowned herself with burrs. Not every father is lucky enough to have a daughter like that. Ramona giggled. Daddy, you're being silly. She was happier than she had been in a long time. Chapter 3. The Night of the Jack-o'-lantern. Please pass the tomatoes, said Ramona, hoping to make someone in the family smile. She felt good when her father smiled as he passed her the bowl of stewed tomatoes. He smiled less and less as the days went by, and he had not found work. Too often he was just plain cross. Ramona had learned not to rush home from school and ask, Did you find a job today, Daddy? Mrs. Quimby always seemed to look anxious these days, either over the cost of groceries or money the family owed. Beezus had turned into a regular old grouch because she dreaded creative writing, and perhaps because she had reached that difficult age Mrs. Quimby was always talking about, although Ramona found this hard to believe. Even Picky was not himself. He lashed his tail and stalked angrily away from his dish when Beezus served him puss-putty, the cheapest brand of cat food Mrs. Quimby could find in the market. All this worried Ramona. She wanted her father to smile and joke, her mother to look happy, her sister to be cheerful, and Picky to eat his food, wash his whiskers, and purr the way he used to. And so, Mr. Quimby was saying, at the end of the interview for the job, the man said he would let me know if anything turned up.